You mentioned the industrial master plan and also the industrial ESG plan. Can you share a little more detail on what concrete policies will be included in those plans?
Thank you. In fact, it is a very important document for us. It was launched, our National Industrial Master Plan 2030, launched yesterday by our Honorable Prime Minister. It is really important because it gives the roadmap for the re-industrialization of Malaysia. It's talking about how Malaysia can then progress in terms of driving economic growth through our industrial policy. So we have set on 6 transformative goals. We're looking at elevating economic complexity. We're looking at generating high-value job opportunities to increase our GNI per capita to become a high-income nation. We want to deepen our domestic linkages. We want to also create both new and existing economic clusters. And finally, we want to also make sure that we foster inclusivity and, of course, the ESG principles. So if we look at this, if you look at Malaysia, manufacturing sector is very important. It contributes close to 23% of GDP. And in terms of total exports, the manufacturing sector actually comprised of 80% of Malaysia's total exports. So it's much bigger than other sectors. And in terms of employment, it creates about 17% of employment for Malaysia. So this National Industrial Master Plan is important. And we have 4 missions. One is to increase the economic complexity. What do we mean by that? We want to strengthen our value chains to make sure that the global supply chain, where ASEAN is obviously a net beneficiary of it, we need to strengthen this domestically as well. By the way, the National Industrial Master Plan that Malaysia has embarked on is also a new way of looking at policies. We've moved away from a sector-based approach to a mission-based approach. So apart from advancing economic complexity, the second mission is we want to tech up for the digital future. So for example, we're working with our private sector. We identified 3,000 SMEs, which we feel that needs to be supported into increased automation, to embrace 4IR, and we're working closely with the FMM, our Federal Manufacturing Association. The third mission is to push for net zero. Malaysia, of course, have a target of net zero by 2050. And here, we see how we can support, government can support, and also private sector can support this transition. We want this transition to be a fair transition and a just transition. And lastly, the mission is looking at economic security and inclusivity, because we don't want to see certain groups or certain industries are left behind with this roadmap. And again, we have this total program. The National Industrial Master Plan is about $20 billion US over the span of 7 years. And in any mission, execution is key. And to execute, of course, we need to ensure that infrastructure is there. But what is important is, like what you said just now, it's not just a whole of government approach. We need a whole of nation approach, engaging all various stakeholders, of course, private sector, NGOs, and various other stakeholders. So the 4 enablers that are key when we look at our industrial master plan, one is, of course, the financing ecosystem. Financing ecosystem needs to be there, be it equity, be it debt, from banks, from capital markets, from various levels of support system when it comes to the financing support. We also look at talent. Talent is important. I think ASEAN is an attractive investment destination because of its talent pool, the quality of our talent here in this region. But the supply of talent continues to be important as we embrace digital economy, the new economy, ensuring that our people are also ready in terms of their skill set. Thirdly, of course, investor journey. We want to enhance investor journey. In my previous life, we look at customer journey, but today in government, especially for investment agencies, we need to look at the pain points of investors when they come to the region. So in Malaysia, we identified 14 pain points of investors coming to Malaysia, and I'm sure it's basically about ease of doing business, cutting red tapes, facilitating investors to come to this region as well. And finally, of course, we need to ensure that we have a holistic governance framework. And these are all important ingredients. And since I mentioned that we have moved away from a sector-based approach to a mission-based approach, we have identified 9 missions so far, but we need champions. We need local champions, we need multinational champions to spearhead this, where we can build the ecosystem, we can build the clusters so that we can see the spillover impact, not just to Malaysian companies, but to the Malaysian people. So those are a bit of a summarized version of the National Industrial Master Plan, which was launched yesterday.